College sports has always had questionable behavior, but the latest shiftiness by a media member in a classic case of the cover-up worse than the crime.
There's tons of people that vote on the AP poll, and it's not a perfect system, but at the end of the day, no matter who you pick, it does even out because there's so many people who vote.
A giant word salad that has insulted sports fans everywhere, and I firmly believe the criticism has nothing to do with her gender. Or does it? I'm Doug Kezirian, formerly of ESPN, now in my 25th year of broadcasting. This is Hard Pass, also available in podcast. Shades of a bubbly kindergartner teacher telling her students, "We don't keep score," and "all that matters is we have fun." This all stems from the latest Associated Press college football poll, and one voter ranking Florida 14th on her ballot, 2 spots higher than the previous week, despite losing at home to South Florida as monster double-digit favorites. Worse, she didn't even have South Florida, which is now undefeated, on her ballot at all in the top 25. Again, the Gators lost at home to South Florida, and the Bulls improved to 2-0, quality wins over Florida and Boise State, and she left them off her ballot entirely. Haley Sawyer, a USC football beat writer for the Southern California News Group, on a Zoom call was asked about this oversight of her ballot and stumbled through a response with utter nonsense.
As far as what my votes are and what my process is, I wake up early in the morning after covering a game late in the night before. Don't want to go too much into my progress or process or logic, but I will say I appreciate everybody's interaction on social media and all of your feedback. There's tons of people that vote on the AP poll, and it's not a perfect system, but at the end of the day, no matter who you pick, it does even out because there's so many people who vote. And like I said, it's really fun for discussion. It doesn't, probably matter in the end, but I'm glad that people are having a really good time.
Look, this is obviously indefensible. I get it. However, my gut tells me that this whole thing was an honest mistake. She was covering the USC game on Saturday for several hours, post-game, writing her story, unable to watch all the games, obviously, throughout the day, and simply screwed up Sunday morning when she had to turn in her ballot. That's okay. Not okay for that to be a regular occurrence, an issue, but one mistake is fine. Not the end of the world. We all make mistakes. However, the real issue is the doubling down, the word salad of the mysterious, "I don't want to go into my process," and then saying it doesn't matter. Honestly, I could not believe what I was watching. Shades of the judge in Billy Madison.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Now, that was a movie about an idiot trust fund kid whose dad paid off his elementary school and high school teachers along the way so he could graduate. Very different situation. Now, she's not entrusted to cure cancer, but she is expected to follow college football and have a defensible ballot. And a response on the Zoom call, come on, clearly the cover-up was worse than the crime. She had a brain cramp and just didn't want to admit it. I would even venture to say, maybe it's a stretch, but I don't think it is, that she was afraid of the backlash solely because she's a female. After all, the sports world is evolving. I get it, but there are still those who inherently doubt that a female knows a sport better than a man, or just as much as well as. So she was worried and maybe even ashamed, and thus tried to diffuse the situation. All she did was make a bad situation worse. She insulted sports fans while also giving more ammo to the Neanderthals who are adamant that there's no place for women in football. Yes, they still exist. First of all, it may not be that big of a deal, at least in a vacuum. There are checks and balances, and other voters did do their homework. USF is currently ranked 18th, and Florida is unranked. So ultimately, no harm done with the latest AP poll. Second, the polls ultimately mean nothing because nowadays we have the College Football Playoff Committee. Those members are the ones that decide which teams reach the playoff and the bowl games. They're not multitasking beat writers on game day who have a million things to do. Instead, they only watch games and focus on that responsibility. So ultimately, the sport is going to be okay. But I also agree with the outrage. We can't have this ineptitude and sloppiness. We have to draw the line and continue to have a high bar. It matters to too many people. And frankly, it's an insult to both our intelligence and our free time, which is so precious. You can imagine what was flowing across social media. So that brings us to our heat check. And quite the reaction. This one from Clay Travis, college football AP voter who moved Florida up 2 spots after the South Florida loss, struggles to explain decision. Here's the answer. She's a moron and wasn't willing to do the bare minimum of work to rank teams. And I get it. It was the bare minimum. You got to do that. David Fackrell, having an AP vote should be an honor and should be earned. These voters should be trusted to make an unbiased vote. It's impossible to watch every game, but they should use all the data available at the very least. Take her vote away. Quote, it doesn't really matter, which is what she said on that Zoom call. This is a funny memes coming out, the zooming in of the confused look of a blonde and Barbie doll maybe of some sort. And then who could forget the old Miss America back in the day when it was just stumbling through an answer. And yes, it kind of did feel a little bit like that. Now, obviously, the humor is expected and the reference to the beauty pageant response, but one person calling for her to lose her vote. Should she have her vote taken away based on this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Is that too harsh? Or it's fine, it's appropriate? Let me know. In my eyes, Haley Sawyer did in fact do a disservice to her job, but just one aspect of it at one moment. And then she insulted people on the Zoom call. That video was condescending, it was dismissive, you name it. She tried to tell people to look past her mistake for a variety of reasons that just didn't make sense, hoping it would blow over instead of just owning up to it. Unfortunately, it's gone in the other direction, as it often does. Her Twitter account is now protected, so she can't be tagged in any hate tweets. But this does bring up a bigger topic about women in sports. Of course, she's going to catch more heat because she's a female, and then the phrase DEI hires flooding social media. This tweet captures the talking points. Men are tired of hearing they don't take female opinions on sports seriously, and that if you don't think Mina Kimes is a genius, you are a misogynist and a bigot. This Haley Sawyer episode is why they don't. Now, the gist of that tweet is if you criticize a female reporter or anchor or host, you're going to be labeled a misogynist. That's unfair. Also unfair to involve a reporter's gender in the criticism. It goes both ways. But I truly believe if a male reporter had made this mistake and babbled on the Zoom call and did all that, I do firmly believe he would have caught the same amount of heat. Now, the actual comments, the words of the criticism, that would be obviously different because male fans just wouldn't be taking it easy on him. Just the verbiage would be different. Obviously, speaking to her as a female, that's going to come out. But last year in the WNBA, fans were outraged that one media member voted Angel Reese as the Rookie of the Year over Caitlin Clark. Clark got every other vote. This is inexcusable. This is a no-brainer vote, especially with Reese getting hurt. But the WNBA doesn't disclose the identity of the voters, so no one knows who had that egregious vote, gender, race, whatever. But the outrage was there regardless. Better example, also last year in the NFL with the MVP voting. Josh Allen ultimately edged out Lamar Jackson, the closest finish of results in a couple decades. You know who received a bunch of criticism? Jim Miller, because he voted Lamar Jackson 4th on his ballot. To be clear, Miller is a white male and former NFL quarterback, which is another sensitive issue lately with some ESPN airwaves. Miller played the game. The outrage was heavy. Idiots and critics are often going to grab the low-hanging fruit. So yes, when a female does something like this, her gender is going to be weaved into the backlash. It's going to be part of the comments. I get it. But to be fair, let's be honest here, while females in sports have a much smaller margin for error, some also get an opportunity because of their gender. Now, hear me out. It's an inarguable fact, and that's okay. It's understandable because you're appealing to a diverse audience. So diversity of thought, obviously important. But in media, so is visually appearing as a diverse workforce because your target demo is a wide range of gender and race. So you can't have a workplace of 100% male, 100% female, 100% whatever race. You have to have a diverse on-air staff. You should represent your audience. And from what I can tell, Haley Sawyer is a qualified reporter and journalist that simply had a brain cramp. It happens, but the cover-up was certainly worse than the crime. Honestly, the most surprising thing in this is not that she made a mistake when she was by herself submitting a ballot, had no sort of checks and balances, but rather after processing it all for a couple days to think about it, that she assumed it would blow over with some nonsensical sort of comments in response to the question on that Zoom call. She kind of ignored the passion of the very sport she covers, college football, and the fans. Either way, I hope she survives this and continues to have a solid career. Also, a colleague of hers did tweet in her defense. He knows her. He's based in LA. Haley is a consummate professional, a believer in the human stories at the heart of sport, and a supporter of student journalists learning the craft. The amount of sexist, misogynistic, and vile posts spewed online today is not only unwarranted, but unacceptable. Be better, folks. And then talking about someone else saying this all jumped the shark, and that was a retweet. Hey, join the conversation. Do you think this will blow over? Or do you think everyone has been too critical and maybe even singling out the gender component to this? Because it is a variable, like it or not, it just is. Or have people been too critical or not critical enough? Should she lose her voting privileges? Let us know. Join the conversations, we like to say. Time now for Fans in the Stands, and this is when we respond to the comments section, our audience or our fans in the stands. And just a reminder to please like and subscribe and hype here in YouTube. It's our currency that we use, and that really helps us out. So we appreciate you taking the extra time to do all that, and ask us any questions. Join the conversation. Let us know your thoughts, what you like, what you dislike, what you want to see more of, less of. We all know we want more Arthur, my French bulldog, and he will pick his spots when his agents and the studio production. But in all seriousness, always appreciate the feedback. Couple questions and comments to get through. Ryan Huffman says, I commented in your Discord, yes, my Discord, that the Ravens were going to regret running 3 predictable and conservative run plays in a row and punting. The Bills were selling out to stop the run and had been doing anything they wanted on offense on previous drives, at least run some RPOs to keep the Ravens defense honest. Bills, I think that is. That late game Bills money line was free money. And that was the big thing I talked about in the last episode, how, yes, Josh Allen was incredible. Drove the field, game-winning field goal, all that stuff, and then the touchdown before on 4th down. But this was really, we've seen that from Josh Allen before. This was really about the Ravens choking, specifically John Harbaugh. Had a chance to ice the game on 4th down, 4th and 3, had Lamar Jackson. He had 3 3rd and 3s earlier in the game, converted all of them and then some. Instead, on 1st down and then blah, 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 they ran vanilla up the middle. And an end around, I believe, was one of them. And so it was 4th and 3, and I would not have punted. They punted. 42 yards, I believe, was the net gain on the punt. And sure enough, within a couple plays, Allen and the Bills were passing. Possession matters so much more than position, as in field position. So maybe that was the needed shock to the system that other coaches will start getting out of that archaic play calling. But Ryan was saying in the Discord, and in real time was right along, thinking along and agreeing with me. So appreciate that. This is from BFPSU. From a betting perspective, Ravens money line and Eagles Cowboys not going over are 2 brutal bad beats in a span of 4 days. No way you punt there with Lamar, Henry, Andrews, etc. Put the ball in Jackson's hands there. So I agree. Obviously, I said that you have to go for it. I said it at the time. I agree with it 15, 16 years ago, when Bill Belichick and the Patriots went for it instead of punting to Peyton Manning and the Colts. I believe that was 4th and 2 in 2009. But yeah, betting perspective, week 1, opening night, horrendous beat on the over 47.5 or 48.5. You have 41 points in the first half and you only get 3 in the second half. That may be the worst beat all year, and it happens on opening night. And then to this audience member's point, a few days later, you have Bills money line up 15, 4 minutes to go, and Ravens money line, they cannot finish it off. Just excruciating. And I actually had a big, large position on the Ravens. So that one's going to sting for a while. So we appreciate everyone's input, always contributing. Again, like, subscribe, and hype. That really helps us out with the analytics. And we hope you enjoyed this version and this edition of Hard Pass.